Thank you. Thank you, Rolf. Can you all hear me? Okay. I apologize for not speaking in German. I hope everyone understands me. And thank you, my friend Rolf, for the kind words again. We've been talking about how we can use legal instruments in order to protect animals going through human rights, right? And I'm going to speak a little bit about that and the Portuguese case. In case you don't know, recently Portugal implemented a law that makes vegan meals mandatory in public facilities. This has been seen as a breakthrough. I'm going to go through some of these details, but I'm also going to present some of the shortcomings of this law because it's not a perfect law, as you will understand. Veganism in Portugal, it's a growing trend, much like everywhere else in Europe. In 2007, there were 30,000 vegetarians, and nowadays, in the recent statistical study from 2017, there were at least 120, of which at least 60,000 are vegan. This might not seem much, and it is not, but we're only a small country with 10 million of people. So it's been, you can see it's grown very large, the number, and it's like fourfold in relation to 2007. So it's increased about 400% in just 10 years, which is quite incredible, I think. Back when I was a university student, like Rolf said, I faced a lot of discrimination in public facilities, canteens. I had no access to vegan meals, and therefore I felt that there was a need to do something about this. Actually, in Portugal, our constitution, pretty much like any other constitution in Europe, has to abide by European directives of human rights, right? So it says, I'm sorry, it's in Portuguese, but it's like the principle of equality. So it says every citizen is equal under the law, which everyone knows. It's like same thing everywhere. And we also have the labor law and the equality bodies, especially the Migration Commission, speaking a lot about equal rights, and they even mention vegetarianism. They say that some people that come from other countries, like immigrant people, have the right to a vegetarian meal, but they only apply this right to immigrants, not to Portuguese people. So there is really no effective protection against discrimination. These legal instruments do not really provide protection against for the citizens. So vegan individuals face discrimination at public canteens and society at large, and frequently there is no available vegan option, or the available vegetarian option is very poor, has no nutrition value. So, like I said, back when I was a student, I decided to create a public petition, and this was in 2015, and I was not expecting much results from this, to be honest, but the truth is a lot of people felt like me that there was a need to do something about this, to mobilize. So we created the petition for the inclusion of vegetarian options in schools, universities, and other public facilities. When I say vegetarian, I actually mean vegan or dietary vegan. We just use the word vegetarian to make it simple. So it was created in 2015. We had over 15,000 signatures, 15,000 people signing up, and it was submitted to Parliament, the Portuguese Parliament, in March 2016. And there was a lot of press releases, and the media got the hang of it. They were interested in this petition, so it was in the national media. And we had a public hearing in October 2016. That's me and my colleague and friend Arshit, who was here in the last IVRA conference 3 months ago. This was actually interesting hearing because we had the chance to talk with the MPs from different political parties, from the right wings to the left wings, and it was incredible because they were actually willing to listen to us and to our arguments, and they were willing to cooperate. They realized that this was a matter of human rights. And that's how we approach the matter, as human rights. Of course, also thinking of animals, but we realized that we couldn't use the ethical argument in this case. So it was funny because in the end of the hearing, they came to us and they pat us on the back and they said, "I'm glad you're not like those extremists that hang around." And and they had some concerns with the nutritional value of vegetarian meals. Of course, it's still a widespread prejudice against vegetarians. And they had concerns with budget of implementing the vegan meals, as well as concerns with food waste, which I think it's legitimate. They were concerned with extra costs and so on. We convinced them that this was not a matter for being worried, because you could just adjust proportions. I mean, if 100 people want the vegan meal, you prepare less 100 meat meals, right? It's just a matter of adjusting proportions. So, other than that, we also presented an official statement at around the same time in 2016, and this official statement was issued to all the parliament parties. They have a seat in there, and it was a way of presenting arguments in favor of the vegan meals, all the statistical data available, as well as scientific data to back it up. So to show that it's possible to do a vegan meal, and that brings no problems in terms of health, and it's perfectly, and we also debunked some myths, like regular myths that surround veganism. Also, this is a document that was issued by the, what I would call it, the dietitians order. So that's like the organism that represents all dietitians in Portugal. And they presented a document saying some very interesting things. For example, they claim that public canteens, public facilities, already met the different dietetic requirements, so no one needed a vegetarian meal. Apparently everyone already had one. And it suggested that the Mediterranean diet or Mediterranean lifestyle was the most adequate for the Portuguese population. This is very funny because the Mediterranean diet is very similar to the vegetarian diet. Actually, they kind of align each other, because in the original Mediterranean diet, people ate vegetables, most of it like vegetables and beans and so on, and only meat or fish once or twice a week. So it was a very short amount of meat or fish that they ate. So by promoting vegetarianism, you're actually also promoting Mediterranean diet. So we were actually promoting their agenda, but they were against us somehow. I don't know why. I'm sorry if this is cut, but also stated that this law would force people to be vegan. We're not forced people to be vegan, because the law established that it provides with a vegan meal when someone asks for it. It's not forcing upon anyone the vegan meal. So what we did was we kind of issued our statement as well, like on top of theirs. And building a law, so this was a complicated process. There were some political parties in Portugal. We have a very interesting political paradigm. The thing is, we have this new political party called People, Animals and Nature. It's very progressive because they have a very interesting holistic approach. They consider not just animal rights, but also human and nature rights. One day they're talking about like human slavery, and the other day they're talking about protecting nature, and the other day about human animal rights. That's really interesting and very good, because it kind of dispels this myth that the people that care for animal rights don't care for humans. They do. I think everyone here cares for humans, right? So they were very well accepted, and they submitted the first proposal of a law. And this law said that it was supposed, public facilities were supposed to provide with vegan meals, right, for everyone. This law was followed by other political parties. They also presented similar projects for similar laws. Sorry. And we also had three important documents. These are like guidelines for doing a vegetarian lifestyle. Three of them that were published by the Ministry of Health, like a government institution in Portugal. And these recognize that you can do a vegan lifestyle completely healthy, no problems, no issues with that. And that was the government that said this. These manuals say this. It's really, these were like crucial for approving this law because the government itself could not deny that that vegan meals could be adequate and healthy, right? So there were three, like I said, one for guidelines for healthy vegetarian diet, another one guidelines for healthy vegetarian diet in a school age, and finally how to plan a vegetarian meal in public facilities. Again, bear in mind that they mean vegan when they say vegetarian. And the law was approved in 3rd March 2007, so just a few months ago, very recent. As we've seen, there were three main intervenients besides us, the AVP, the Portuguese Vegetarian Association, which I represent, also the political parties, most of them from the left wing, of course, and the Health General Directory from the Ministry of Health that also presented the guidelines. So the thing is, all these things came together at the right time when the veganism was growing in popularity, and this was really critical. We couldn't have done it without the other parties, the other intervenients. So just to provide you an overview, the green one is us, and we started the petition in February, we submitted in March, and this is like the general guidelines that were published around the same time. And finally, this in the blue color is the political parties that intervened by presenting the project drafts for the laws, and the parliament debate, and eventually the law was approved in 3rd March after a lot of legal work. So this is another way of just depicting it. This was just like in a 1.5 year span of time. In terms of the law, maybe that's interesting, and I have the copies of the law here for anyone that wants it. I can give it later after I'm finished. The law states that all public facilities must have at least one vegetarian option, and this applies to all public facilities. That includes schools, basic schools, secondary schools, and so on, universities, healthcare units, prisons included. And it's also, you can see it because it's cut, I'm sorry, but it also states there's a legal entity that is responsible for making sure that this law is abided by. So the strengths about this law: it's a legal instrument for protecting all citizens against discrimination. So everyone, me, you, anyone that goes to a public facility and requires a vegan meal cannot be discriminated in accordance with this law. And they can present a complaint to the entity that is responsible for the inspection. There is an entity that is responsible for food inspection in Portugal, and they're responsible for making sure that this law is abided. In terms of shortcomings or limitations, because there are limitations, I spoke to you a while ago that while we were in Parliament, the MPs, the deputies, they told us that they were concerned with food waste and so on. So they kind of injected some limitations into this law, unfortunately. For example, if there is no demand, the services may be exempted from providing the vegan meal. And even though this only applies in healthcare units and schools, and sorry, again, it's cut, but if there is reduced demand, the services may establish a prior subscription system, meaning if there is low demand, no one is asking for the vegan meal, they can create a form and people have to fill it up saying, I want the vegan meal. Pre-order, kind of a pre-order, yeah. Of course, this is not as good as we wish it could be. It would be nice if we had vegan meals available widespread, because people are only going to try the vegan meals if it exists, if it's there. If the vegan meal is not there, no one is going to know about it. No one's going to know about it, no one's going to try it, right? So this is a big limitation in our point of view, but we're trying to work it to make this law better. It's just a starting point for me. How to deal with the limitations? Of course, like I said, this is not over for us. We're still working on this. It's an ongoing campaign. And right now, we're working on education and campaigning for these rights. We're informing people that this law exists, because a lot of people in Portugal do not know. If you go to them and ask them, do you know about this law? Do you know it's your right? And they say, no, I had no idea this law existed. So it's important to inform people. You know, it's also important to educate them, like grassroots campaigns in the field, telling, making awareness, like PETA does, you know, making people aware about health issues concerned with meat eating, or environmental issues of meat production, or animal rights, right? So it's important to bring awareness. We're also providing, going to provide training and workshops to the public facilities. A lot of times they do not know how to prepare a vegan meal. And we're going to go on doing political lobbying, meaning trying to influence the politicians to make this law better and more effective. So we're starting a new campaign. And this is like one of the posters, the banners we have for this new campaign. It's in Portuguese. Sorry, it's not going. Yeah, so this campaign is about 3 things. To create an incentive to try the vegan meal. Try it. If you never did, please do. That's what we do. That's what we're doing. To inform, like I said, to inform people that this law exists, how they can use it to protect themselves against discrimination. That's important too, because they can use it. And to provide training, like workshops and so on, showing how they can cook the meals. So, like I said, creating increasing a demand for the vegetarian options, also informing about the existence of the law, and providing training, workshops, consultancy, and so on. And the campaign is ongoing right now. We're working on it at this moment, because we felt like, okay, the law exists and that's okay, but we can't like finish our work here, so we had to go on. And what we're doing right now is like we're distributing posters and infographics in schools, in facilities, and so on, like from schools to hospitals. And we're giving it out to the patients, we're giving it out to the students, and we're letting them know you can use this law to protect yourself. This is what steps you can follow. We also have a website page with all the available information. Hopefully, I think we're going to translate it to English, so if you want to check it out later, you're more than welcome. And we have an email support line that's going to be basically a form that people can fill up with the questions, and if they don't know anything, if they don't know something about the law, we can inform them. So it's like a customized, personalized support line for them. And that's pretty much it. That's my presentation. Thank you for your attention.